exile, 'cause in my heart it's not worthwhile. It's a bloody battlefield where some go down, others heal. In the end it's all the same. All you can do is play the game. Oh, do we say goodbye? Refuse to question why. I'm just sad to say I'm sorry, so lie. Pretend that you're okay. Swear that you will stay. Keep trying for one day. I'm sick of all these lies. Don't care if I capsize. There's nothing left for me to hide. Don't wanna live a lie. Too many lows, too many highs. Too many things to criticize. And so I leave it all behind. Don't wanna live a lie. Life kept spitting at my feet and forced me down a dead-end street when all I had went up in flames, burning only dark remains. I cover up every part of my skin, oh, 'cause I don't like the person within, oh. I know I'm the one to blame. All I can do is take the shame, oh. Do we say goodbye? Refuse to question why. I'm too sad to say I'm sorry, so lie and pretend that you're okay. Swear that you will stay. Keep trying for one day. Whoa, I'm sick of all these lies. Don't care if I capsize. There's nothing left for me to hide. Don't wanna live a lie. Too many lows, too many highs. Too many things to criticize. So I leave it all behind. Don't wanna live a lie. A lie. I don't wanna live a lie. Live a lie. Ooh. I'm sick of all these lies. Don't care if I capsize. Oh no.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Hey everybody, welcome in. So good to see you tonight. Thank you for coming in. So after going over and listening to the new memorandum that has been released, welcome in, Melanie. Hey Nicolina, thank you. Ancestor, Vicky, thank you for being here. I know it's late for you. Badger, my girl. I love you. Susanna, Proud Mimi, Daniel, whatever. Welcome in, y'all. So thank you, Nick. So when I started getting word of Odinism, hey Holly Dolly, welcome in, love. My first thought was Nils. And I wanted his input on what was being put and said in that memorandum. He has a lot of insight. He was raised and came from a family. And give me 1 second. Okay. I'll drop the link for Nils too. I sent in an email, but just in case. Well, thank you for being here, love. I appreciate it. So, Nils, I just dropped it in chat as well. So, my first impression, I've always been hesitant on doing this case and covering this case. Hey, Crystal Lady, crazy Crystal Lady, how are you doing? So, I did do a reading on this case unintentionally. And after that, it completely freaked me out to where I didn't want to touch this case again. It gave me anxiety. Now, when that happened, it's taken 2 years for me to be able to do this case. And once I saw the memorandum, it all made sense. Welcome, Nils. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah, the
As
reading
always.
did me. Susanna is one of the few that saw firsthand the reading I had on the case, and I never put it really public. So.
Got you. Got you. Okay. Yeah, there was man, this case is interesting. It's very interesting. Especially with some of the stuff that they found. It's very crazy. Very crazy. Some of the stuff they found on the scenes and things like that.
Yes. And I did give Nils the memorandum prior to jumping on here as well. And he was catching up on everything. And he was also educating me. So we want to educate on a lot of Odinite religion, pagan beliefs, all of those beliefs, and kind of, how would you say it, Nils?
The Old Norse ways, the Old Norse beliefs, Old Norse paganism, basically. So like many have different sects to their belief. Christians have Catholics, Presbyterians, Baptists, Methodists. Islam has Shiite and Sunni, and I think there's another one. and the Old Norse belief, the Old Norse paganism belief ways. So we have Ancestor, which are followers of just the Aesir gods. In our belief, we have Vanatru, which are follower of the Vanir tribe. There's two. There's Aesir and Vanir. Then you have heathens, which are just your general Norse pagans that don't have, say, a community of folk, which are people. Of course, we don't have church. We don't have churches or anything. Some do have temples, like Ancestor in Iceland. They do. There's just general Norse pagans. They'll tell you the Norse pagans. There's Lokians, which are strictly followers of Loki. There's some to Thor, some to Heimdall, which are sons of Odin. And then you have, and there's many others, but the Odinists, which is the Odinistic rite or Odinic rite, which started in 1973 in the UK as a white supremacist group. And then later in America, it got involved into the prisons on both sides of the prisons, so as inmates and as the corrections officers. Because of the racism
that's
in
one
American
thing
prisons.
That I did want to clarify, I'm sorry to interrupt, is
you go ahead.
It is heavily riddled between the inmates and the correction officers.
Yes. Yes. So it's on both sides of the gate, basically. Uh, but they limit their membership only to white individuals. Some are just to white males. Myself, I tell people I'm a Norse follower of the old ways and basically heathen. So I'm not an Odinist. I'm not with Odinic. Um, there's other groups as well that are just as bad. One is based out in San Francisco in America. Um, so we basically follow gods. Uh, they're done in different manners, but the intention of how like myself does it from our family lineage in Sweden and Norway and all of Northern Europe compared to just people who get into it now because they saw the TV show Vikings or they saw a Viking movie and they want to do people and follow these gods and the intention is not placed in the right place basically.
So
And they
when it comes to, there's complete polar opposites and like versions, so to say, kind of like Christianity.
yeah.
Okay. Now, a lot of people have been questioning the type of what's your opinion on, you actually caught my attention when you started saying even certain energies being involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to butcher the word.
It's pronounced the Jotnar as plural. Jotun.
I would have said Juntin.
Yeah, most people see that term and uh, yeah, they'll say and this is the correct spelling. The O is a little bit different, but Jotnar is plural, which are the giants, and that just goes back to uh, started with the creation theory and our belief that I sent you earlier today.
And I hit upon you yesterday. I kind of approached you yesterday with this and asking you about it, and you were like, the runes don't make sense in the placements. I was trying to understand what your thoughts were on that, because it was kind of in between your live. So
Yeah, just the pictures that I've seen. For whatever they were trying to do, whatever type of ritual, and I'm not saying that there was not human sacrifice was hundreds of years ago, but to do something like that today um, is just unfounded. There's no group on the planet now that does the human sacrifice to the gods, and that's basically every culture and belief doesn't do blood sacrifices or human sacrifices or anything now in a more modern society. So the placement of the runes and the runes that were used are not the intention that it's supposed to be used for. So like and I hear people say, well, there's a rune that looks like an F. There's actually two. It's either pointed up or pointed down. Pointed down is Ansus, which runes are very, very, very tricky, very magical because it goes back to the beginning of creation and our belief. So there's a lot more to the runes than just seeing a symbol and seeing a letter. It has a phonetic name to it. See, there's Ansus, and then Fehu's the other one. Each one has a certain meaning to it. It has a phonetic pronunciation to it, so it acts as an alphabet as well. And then runes combined, which we call bind runes, kind of double that energy. So Fehu basically in Old Norse means cattle. And of course, cattle was a symbol of wealth. And wealth wasn't necessarily just money, peace, frith, things like that. So when I saw a picture of Fehu at the crime scene, I was just like, why would you put that there? That kind of diminishes the meaning of it. That makes zero sense.
Yeah.
So
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
so to me, it just proved that whoever was messing with these runes didn't know what they were doing. They might have seen it in a movie, or a friend said, "Hey, it would be cool if we did this," but they do not. It was just it shouldn't have been there to begin with.
And you saw multiple runes on there.
Yeah, yeah. There was different ones. There was Gibo, there was Ansus, there was Feu. Uh, I saw Isa, Othala, and Othala looks like a diamond with two wings at the bottom, with two legs basically. And Othala is what many rune, not the one that everybody's been talking about. Oh, that's the rune of Odin. That's the ancestral knowledge that of the cosmos that Odin knows. So a lot of people are now on social media and all over the news. They're saying, "Oh, well, that's Odin's rune." It's actually Othala, which is inheritance and legacy. Um, so it's misconstruing these runes as to what they actually mean. And then like Hagalas, you'll see Gibo, and then a line straight down, which is Isa. Isa is ice, which is steel. Gibo is actually a protection rune. And then Hagalas as well. Um, and they're either mispronouncing rather the name, or they don't know exactly what rune they're looking at, so they're just Googling anything to come up with these runes just for their viewers and say, okay, this is it, this is what the prosecution found, this is what we see, and this is what it is. But it's very aggravating, especially, but that tells us, and there's many who have denounced this crime, who have heartfelt sincerity of sympathy and condolences to the families of Abby and Libby, and denounced the Richard Allen and pretty much most of the Odinic right because of it. This is not what we do.
Exactly. And that was my fear, is somebody that's being reckless and misrepresenting what a certain culture goes by and does in this way. It could be very damaging, especially
Very.
with such a high profile case as this.
And because of what's going on with the case, and where they've made that link, or they're trying to make the link to Odinism, they're saying, well, okay, he's an Odinist, so he's a Norse pagan, and he might be a white, he's was in the Odinic rite, and now it makes all Norse pagans look like they're white supremacists or white nationalists, which is false. Is absolutely false.
Catlin has a question. Were they trying to make it seem like something it wasn't? What's your thoughts on that?
Wondered that myself,
Thank you,
because
Catlin.
everything that initially came out with the trooper saying there was no link, and then the whole mystery Purdue professor that provided this expert testimony, and there's no deposition. They can't even find this professor. And it took, what, 5 years for them to come to the point now to where they have some type of evidence that, hey, this is what this is what happened. And something does not sound right with this case. Something does not add up at all. For them to come out for 5 years and say, okay, this is the evidence that we have, that he was an Odinist. And I'm not saying that he's innocent either. But the evidence that they're producing now does not add up for that long of a period, when at the beginning, the state trooper and the rest of the Delphi investigation team said there's no tie at all. And then all of this information comes out now.
Yeah, it and I think Susanna can attest, is I felt as though for at least 2 years, ever since I did my first reading without realizing it, that I knew something like this was up with this case. And I feel the same way with Summer's case, to be honest. And I know I'm not the only one on that, and personally staying in the middle of Beach Creek during the visit. But what are what's your thoughts on the placement of the body? Because I was looking at that one sketch that somebody came up with on Twitter, is now down, so I'm not going to share it. I'm not too sure why that creator took it down, but the significance and the aspect of why they would do that, it's
Are you talking where the these were placed at the base of the tree
yeah.
and then laid out with the runes on them? Uh, the Norse pagans don't do that. It's never even through oral histories that doesn't happen. Um, there was, and you could look. Actually, I'll type it in chat. So there was an Arabic. They assume he's Arabic because they don't know much about his origin, just what he did. But he was an Arabic traveler from the out of Baghdad and through the Byzantine Empire when there was a large trade route, and most of northern and eastern Europe down to um, Turkey and the present-day Middle East. There was a lot of trade routes, and then Ibn Fadlan was the one who had actually recorded the Rus Viking, which is present-day and eastern Russia and the Bulgarian region. And he had spent some time with the Rus Viking people. Not the Slavs, they were different. They were different. So most of them that came down from modern-day Scandinavian had settled into areas such as modern Ukraine and the Bulgarian region and north of the Caspian Sea, and enslaved the Slavs, excuse me, which is why they were called Slavs, which means slave in our language, in that area. And it had been recorded that made actually a very detailed account, from funerals to some of the rituals that they had done, and there was human sacrifice rituals done every 9 years, which was most in Europe at that time with the Old Norse people. And there was 9 of each kind, so 9 humans, 9 cattle, 9 pigs, 9 goats, and the such that were sacrificed to the Allfather and to the gods. And the reason being is because Odin had hung from the world tree for 9 days. It doesn't say if he hung upside down or if he hung upright, but when he looked down into the well below him, into the water, that's when he saw the runes and scooped them up, and that's how we got the runes. But the point is that number 9 is very important in our belief. So why was there only 2 killed? If this was trying to make a true Norse human sacrifice, why was there 2 girls and not 9 girls or 9 people?
And is there, now I'm curious, because also when they were unalived, it was on the 13th. It was not on the 14th. Would you think of any significance that would be with that at all?
We consider 13 an unlucky number. Christians have their reason. But we consider it the number of Loki and as an unlucky number, which is, so the fact that it came out on the 13th is like, that something's not right.
And would you be under the impression, after reading the memorandum, would you be under the impression if it was more than one person that would have done it?
It had to be. Honestly, I think if it was more than one person and the entire group knew it, a small group of people, I think whatever. I don't know how that their structure is in the Odinic Rite. I know that they use the term, they have like at their top, they have what's called the Court of Gotis, which is like a priest in our belief. And each of their little groups, local groups, have a goatee. But as far as from there in between, I don't know how they're structured. So I would say that from their local group, they probably knew about the murders, but they didn't call it that. They called it, sacrifice.
And how far back does your culture go with your family?
With just our
'Cause-
family, the same stories, same information we've been told is 2,700 years of this knowledge.
Because I was kind of shocked when you told me that when we were talking, I wasn't shocked at the fact that there is no Bible. It's basically taught from your ancestors from generation to generation. But then there is some things carved in stone.
Yes, the rune stones. The rune stones are everything from a story to like this is so and so's farm. They're very large stones. Most of them are granite, carved into with the runes. You can look them up. They're all over Scandinavia, as far east as Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Finland. But the majority of them, Sweden has the largest collection of rune stones. But we have different books of the teachings, the Prose Edda, the Poetic Edda, which is basically the beginning of creation and what happened after that. And then the Havamal of the Allfather that was recorded and just passed down. And most of these were actually just, those were oral. The stories that was passed down until Christian missionaries came into Scandinavia and started writing everything down and asking the locals about it.
So basically, anybody that is here and converts, they're really, depending on how far in depth, it's a lot to learn. And there's a lot of, how would you say it? Pros and cons of jumping into it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's different sayings and words of wisdom from the Allfather, teachings from King Delphi, and others, warriors and things like that, that help to define our virtues and our traditions. And this crime is not one of those. Not saying they haven't, killed, pillaged, stuff like that, but a lot of people associate this with Viking. No, I'm not an Odinist. I am not an Odinist. They will attribute this to Viking, and Viking wasn't a people. It wasn't a society or a cult, a profession. And Viking was basically you were a pirate. So, which is where the raiding came from. So the old term was "let's go a Viking," and which is "let's go raiding." And those involved were the Vikings, the pirates. But it's not all people of Scandinavia, not of the old Norse people were.
I've been trying to keep an eye. Oh, Nothing Compares is asking if it is a religion. She stepped in late.
Yeah, I mean, it is a religion. It's one of the old religions on the planet. So most people will just tell you when they identify as a Norse pagan. We don't, it's a more modern term just to say I'm a Norse pagan. A lot of people don't like to use that term because it was a derogatory term given by the Catholic Church during the Holy Roman Empire against those that didn't believe God. So, and then they started using it for any culture of people that believed in multiple gods. They would just call them a pagan. And then the other derogatory term was a heathen because of the houses, the homes that we lived in, which were wood thatch or stone walled with grass roofs. The British knew that. The Brits, during that time in France and other parts of Europe, would call them heaths. So those that live in heaths that, still worship the old gods were called heathens. So it was kind of like a nickname or a derogatory term.
Now, doing my deep dives, I've noticed a lot of them do go by heathens that
Hmm.
were in the memorandum.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that they know Odinist, uh, yeah, Odinism, that it's not a very welcome term in America, uh, so they just tell people they're heathens, because they don't want to be known as white supremacists and white nationalists. Plus, they try to blend in with other Old Norse groups, which happens sometimes. They're quickly vetted out.
So, Manchester Vicky has a question. In Saxon paganism, there is a reference to prisoner of war sacrifice before battle. Is this a Saxon influence rather than a Norse? What do you think?
There's a lot of influence that was done between the Saxons, the Old Norse, and some of the original Old Germanic tribes, but they didn't. They had similar names for the same gods that they worshipped, but they didn't. So, like some in Sweden during that time didn't do the same that the Kievan Rus would do in present day Ukraine. So, uh, culturally within the Old Norse belief in Scandinavia, in that area, it changed by region.
Hmm. Kind of divides with culture and lifestyle, it sounds like, too.
Yeah. So, our ancestors for luck in combat before battle, and if you look at some of the old swords that had existed, there would be the rune Tuwaz, Tiwaz, Tuwaz. Looks like an arrow carved into it, which was the rune of Tyr, as a god of war and justice to help invoke, luck and favor, basically, to be the victor in battle.
Hmm. For anybody coming in, can you give a little description of where you're from and your background? I
Yeah,
should have
yeah.
started with that.
So my name is Nils, and I am from Sweden. So jag är svenska. Our family's from the north, all over Sweden, in Norway. We still have family in Norway as well. Um, and born in Borås, raised in Hammerdal. Came to America, and I have been here since. And my wife is Danish American, so we're still here. Been back and forth many times. So our family and our bloodline still practice the Old Norse religion. We do have some Christians in our family too. My brother's a Christian, and I'm an Old. So, and the reason that my brother is not Old Norse pagan or I'm not a Christian is because we're taught every belief, every religion on the face of the planet when we get to a certain age, and then we make the decision. It's not indoctrinated or forced upon us. That way, we still honor the old rule of free will. This to honor my ancestors and where I come from.
Thank you. Um, Susanna has a question, and I've seen somebody also kind of mention towards it. Would you think of what's your thoughts on would there be any symbolism to the changing of the clothes from one girl to the other? And it sounds like there was no blood on the clothing either. Like one was covered in blood and one was not enclosed.
That does not make any sense to me. I couldn't. I don't know how to answer that because why
There's
would you change their clothes?
I was listening to Michelle After Dark, and she is almost positive that the river could have been involved with that, which would have made an elemental involvement, I think, too,
Yeah,
possibly.
and we have strong beliefs in the elements, um, and in our and the old Norse ways. And a lot of people, and this is a modern misconception of paganism, Old Norse, Egyptian, pagan, Greek, or Diagnostics, or Roman pagan, or the old Celtic pagans, Druid, whatever, is they view us as nature worshippers. And I actually did a video on this. And we are, it's more of a culture, nature, or to look at it. So where we, and Native Americans did this for many centuries. So we learn to respect and live with the land that's around us and venerate that and the energy of that land that's around us. So it's not that we're necessarily worshiping the nature, is we are in balance, living in balance with the surroundings and the resources we have.
Now, that brings up another thought that somebody asked me, is it's not just worshiping, or is it worshiping the devil?
No,
I
that's
actually came across that question earlier. Somebody wanted you to clarify that for many that might not know.
I saw that on another channel. Oh my gosh, I just have to close this stream out. So when we tell
Yeah.
people when we tell people, hey, you know, what do you believe? And I tell them in the Norse pagan, the first thing they say is, who's that? What is that? We believe in the old gods of Scandinavia, and the old ways. And so you're a pagan, you're a Satan worshiper. No, we don't eat babies. We don't worship the devil. We actually don't even believe in Satan. We don't believe in demons, but we do
Yeah,
believe in
we actually
evil and
had that
dark entities and
conversation.
spirits.
That's how we were talking about the J.
Yeah. So
Tune.
it's funny too because our afterlife. In Christianity, you have heaven or hell. It's pretty much the same in Islam. In Norse paganism, there's different afterlives depending on what you have done, how you lived your life, and how you died. So, of course, everybody knows about Valhalla, which the English added an A. So, Valhalla. Um, there's Folkvanger, there's Niflheim, and then there's Hell, but it's spelled with one L, not two. And our hell is different from the Christian hell. Christian hell, you go into the pit of fire, you burn forever. Um, and our hell, it's a beautiful place where your ancestors are the ones that died of old age or have died of sickness. If you had died of suicide, if you were a murderer, coward, thief, things like that, then you go to the old elemental realm before the cosmos was created, called Niflheim. It's very barren, very cold, very icy, and there's a part of Niflheim where the Murd3rs and the really, really bad people go, where a giant dragon named Needhawk, your spirit, your soul forever, basically.
Wow. Nita just came in, and it might be a little bit repetitive,
Good to
but
see you.
we're
It's
happy
okay.
to clarify any questions people have, and that's why we're here. Is what's the significance of the F, the room that resembles the F?
So, and I know you got the pictures up. So there's Ansus, and there's Fehu, and of course Fehu represents wealth. It means in Old Norse cattle. Um, and then Ansu, and this is all in the provincial pantheon. Ansus is the divine wisdom and ancient ancestral knowledge uh, that flow into the world from the human spirit. It's like knowledge and communication passed down from the gods. It's old primordial knowledge, like how did the Big Bang start, things like that. Creativity from your ancestors, what genetic traits that you have. Um, but it principally means just communication.
And then the Fehu.
Uh,
No.
Fehu is Fehu, and cattle was viewed as wealth. If you had cattle, you were normally wealthy, and that's what Fehu stood for, was wealth. And wealth wasn't necessarily like monetary. It could also be lands. It could be children. You know, that you're able to have children, or that you have good health. You're gifted with good health.
So, being that that was included with it, do you think it could have been some type of sacrifice to receive that?
That might be the intention that they were going for, but for Fehu, that's not how you do it. So
That's where I was
what,
getting to.
yeah, that's what really stumps me. It's like, okay, if they're going for wealth, why would you sacrifice someone? And you have to, that old term, you know, you can't make money unless you invest money. It's the same thing that you do every day in life. If you want to gain something, you have to sacrifice something. So if you know, you have to work hard at whatever you achieve. Doing a human sacrifice to gain wealth is a no-no by the gods. It's like not going to happen.
What are some of the main focal points that you wanted to address after seeing all of this? Because I see it being posted and all over. And the misconception and a lot of, like you said, it's movie style ideology
Yeah.
and what you want to put in as the correct projection.
Old Norse,
I guess.
old Norse pagans is the old belief that we have been able to come out more in the past 1 to 200 years without persecution. It's a lot more prevalent, and it's paganism as a whole, not just Norse believers, is rising even faster. What scares me the most is how many people are being attracted or recruited into the Odinic ways of
And
Odinism.
it sounds like it's pretty prevalent up there as well in Indiana, correct?
Yeah, there's pagans, there's Wiccans, there's Norse pagans. They actually have a big festival called Nerf. NERF, you can look that up, and which is an annual gathering of many different ones. People have asked me if I wanted to attend. I know there's a lot from the Odinists that attend that, so it's like, no, I'll just stay where I'm at. I'll stay
Looking
right
into
there where
it
I'm at.
today, I saw some celebrations of that.
Yes, and there's different like private smaller organizations. There's always gathering somewhere. There's some really good groups, even here local to me that I'm not a part of, but I know the people with them that are really good. But they're not Odinists. They're kind of mixed, old Germanic pagans and Wiccans, and as well. Oh, Nita put a good question up. So the Ansus could be saying they are trying to communicate something like a prayer request for knowledge, I guess. That's what I don't understand is what request to the gods would you be wanting? Because our prayer is similar to a Christian prayer, basically. So you make an offering to the gods. As we make all the time to the land, the gods, the house spirits, the land spirits, we call landvater. Basically, it's to like give thanks. You know, thank you for protecting this land, for watching over the family to allow us to live here. And we offer food, fruit, wine, milk, whatever. To the gods, it's a little bit different. So to the Odin, the Allfather does not eat. Him, he gives to his two wolves that sit on either side of his throne, Gerdi and Freki. Uh, so he feeds them, and he drinks only mead, or he just drinks whatever drink that he is offered at the time. So we have offered him bourbon or whiskey or mead. You know, believe he's a creator of mankind. So we give him thanks. You know, hey, I'm going to try to be stronger, better husband, better father, be a better employee at work. You have put challenges before me, which the All Father does. So I'm going to rise and meet that challenge, try to exceed it, and prove to you that I am worth being the human that you had helped to create by my ancestors.
Sorry about that. I got interrupted there for a second.
That's okay. I figured the kids were up.
He, I came off the. He saw on the camera.
Okay.
Susiana, yes. There's a lot of information on Google. There's a lot of misinformation by the runes. Uh, I'm not going to say that every author is wrong with the information about the runes, but the intentions of the rune too. And I'll get into the blood sacrifice or blood offerings as well. So the runes are connected to an ancient primordial knowledge. I mean, the father of the gods basically had to sacrifice himself to himself for 9 days in order to see that, and then give it to mankind and the rest of the gods. So there's a lot of things that can happen to people by not understanding and respecting the runes themselves. It's not a game. It's not for fun. I have runes here at home. It's upstairs on my altar, and they stay there 99% of the time. But people just blindly going out saying, well, it's something to mess with it. Not every Norse pagan messes with Norse magic, which we call Sade. Not everyone is practitioners of Old Norse magic. The females were known as Volva.
Now, Robin was.
Oh,
What was that?
I was just reading that.
Oh, Robin's or a different one?
Robin's about Crystal Lady.
Yeah, it was Libby's blood that was used to draw the F on the tree too.
Hmm.
So that's where, when you were saying blood offering, what are your thoughts on that too? Because that, in my opinion, it sounds like complete opposite of what it would really represent.
The blood offerings weren't just human, and they weren't just animal, but blood offerings, in our belief, are considered the most valid and the most legit, I guess. The reason for this is because there's two essences of life. This is any human that you cannot live without, and that's breath or blood. You lose one or the other, you're going to die. Your blood is very sacred.
Now, I
And it
saw
bonds
also
you.
when I was researching, they can use saliva as well.
Yes, saliva was given. That goes from a being that was created after the Assyro-Vanir War, when the two tribes decided to make peace. They created a human that was the wisest of all beings, named Kvasir, and they each spit into a bowl to create. So even in Norse magic, saliva is considered, it's very highly regarded as sacred.
And on Abby's body, I noticed that there are antlers at her head. Do you have any idea of why they would, or symbolizing of the horns or antlers? Because the way she was shaped, it almost looked like a hangman with the binding on top, the binding rune. The way the leg was bent, it almost looked like my tarot cards. The way the lake was bent. Does that make sense?
Or like the Celtic Green Man, Cernunnos, with the antlers.
I'll check that.
The Earth Fawn. No, whoops, I can't remember the name of the other term. The old Germanics used, but the old Germanic tribes. But normally in rituals, we have worn antlers before, and that's like an antenna to help connect with you and the elements. So why they would put that on her, I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of strange things from seeing the pictures and seeing the sketches and seeing some of the runes that were used. Like, why it just doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense to me.
It almost makes me think of them mixing it with fandom.
Yes, that's the best. That's accurate.
Because it's far from what I've ever understood. And also, it's almost like they've taken it to an extreme that it really isn't. And it's not meant to be either.
Yes, like they saw it in a movie and said, "Hey, let's do this because it looks cool." That's the impression that I'm getting from this case.
Yeah. And then let me see. I was checking out any other questions that I had in here. Oh, yeah. Robin was asking about otherworldly beings. And I think what perked her question was when I was talking to her earlier about the Yuntun. Yuntun?
Jotun?
Jotun.
Jotun.
Yes. Jotun.
Jotun, yeah. So the Jotun were created, might take about 2 minutes. So in our belief, there was a void known as Ginnungagap. And then there was two elemental realms, which was Niflheim, the land of ice, and Muspelheim, which was the elemental fire. And they were on either side of Ginnungagap. Then these sparks from Muspelheim and Niflheim, the shards from Niflheim had collided and set off basically what the scientists call the Big Bang today. And when that happened, it made a sound. That sound we call the Ond, which was the first known sound in the cosmos. Some Buddhist monks, Tibetan monks, know the same knowledge, but they have a different name for it. They call it the Om, and that's the sound that they meditate on, that same frequency.
So is that where Om comes from?
Correct, yes. They just have a different name for it. They just call it Om. We know it as Ond, O-N-D. From that cataclysm, we call it the Great Cataclysm, the first being of the gods was created, known as Ymir, which in Old Norse means screamer. And he was basically a hermaphrodite. And from his sweat, from his armpits, his legs, the Jotun, the giants, were created. And they were keepers of ancient wisdom and primordial knowledge. So from time travel to gravity to everything, they were very well versed. They were strong. They were very big, hence giants. And that was their purpose. There was a cow basically that was born from the ice named abundance of humming, technically in English, is I'll just say the English word, that Ymir had fed off the milk of this cow, and then the cow fed off the rime from the ice to survive. And well,
I saw that, and then something where licking the salt.
Yes,
It was
and
like
then,
a recycling. Like everybody had a different purpose of doing something and feeding off of something,
yes,
or
And then Bori was created from that, and then Bor, which was Odin's father, and then Odin himself and his two brothers, Vili. Well, Odin was very inquisitive and wanted to know more of the ancient knowledge of the cosmos, basically as the first of the gods. And he went to his great-grandfather Ymir and said, why don't you teach me this stuff? And Ymir was very greedy and very selfish. So Odin and his two brothers had decided to kill Ymir. And from his corpse they created Earth, which they called Midgard.
And I heard
So
different parts is different types of earth, like different elements of
Yes.
the earth, correct?
Yes. So the soil is his flesh, the vegetation, all of the grass, the trees, the bushes, weeds, everything was his hairs, vegetation. His blood became the waters and the seas. The sky was his brain, or the clouds were his brain. The sky is his skull. And then small, rocks were his bone, and then small pebbles and stuff were, and rocks and gravel were basically from his teeth. And then Vili and V and Odin decided, hey, this is a pretty cool place. They were walking along the beach one day and noticed two pieces of driftwood. One was ash and one was elm, which we call Osk and Emblu. Osk, Ok, Emblu. And from those two pieces of driftwood, they created first humans. So Vili gave them form and eyes, limbs, things like that, carving it out of the wood. They couldn't speak. They had no wits. V gave them wits. I might have that backwards, actually. V gave them wits in the mind. They still couldn't speak. They couldn't breathe. Odin had breathed what was called, it's known as os, which means breath, the breath of life into the humans. So technically created us with that breath, and we had blood. Os and the Proto-Germanic became known in Old Norse in the Elder Futhark runes, which you see as Ansus. So, and that's basically and then the gods built a wall around Midgard to keep the Jotnar, plural, the Jotnar out, because they were pretty pissed for Odin killing, their grandfather and great-grandfather, and pledged
And it
to
almost looked
destroy
like,
all humanity.
and when I looked at it looked like half man, half beast type of a creature.
Of what do you mean, from Ymir?
No. You on tune?
Oh, the
I'll never be
Jotnar?
able to say that.
Jotun. Like Jotun.
My
Jotun.
Spanish wants to get in, okay? And Robin, following
fair.
up with that, are they considered to be of this realm?
They have their own realm, which is known as Jotunheim, the land of the giants. They can cross into any realm, but each realm is protected by a different god. So Folkvanger, of the 9 realms, Folkvanger is guarded by Freya. Midgard, Earth, is protected by Thor. Of all of the 9 realms, humans are the only ones that govern ourselves. So we're not governed by a god. So that's what makes us more special than the other 9 realms. And the Jotnar hate this. They absolutely hate this, and they hate the gods, especially Odin, for, killing their creator. So they constantly try to get vengeance against the gods and humans by exterminating us.
And Goya Base, who I love, you and I kind of touched about this earlier when we were talking, and that's partially why I haven't really touched it, because I personally got the energy of it. But would this be a type of black magic, something that this monster was doing, or monsters? What's your thoughts on that? Thank you, Goya.
Yes, absolutely. I think that they had no idea about. that they thought was probably pretty cool. Um, and Odin is a god of war. He's a god of rage. He's a god of ecstasy. He's a god of fury, which is also why he's a god of war. Um, he likes to stir the pot from time to time. So, and this is where I hate MCU because they fucked this up. He is a trickster. He's basically blood brothers with the Allfather. So every time something happens mischievous, your car breaks down, whatever, you get a flat tire, people blame Loki, but the Allfather likes to test you as well, in our belief, to give you challenges to see if you overcome that or if you're too weak. Um, for them to be able, for them to do not proving anything to the Allfather other than you're a coward and a murderer. And he does not accept that.
And that kind of follows back with Nita's question. Do Norse magic practitioners tend to fracture from core practice to their own subject of practice, kind of like Christians have different denominations?
There are Norse pagans who do practice Sade magic, which is the Old Norse magic, uh, not necessarily just black magic. But they also do old Celtic magic. They might do the older Roman pantheon style of magic, or they'll worship their gods too. Um, or Wiccan magic. There's a lot of Norse pagans that practice Wiccan magic as well.
I saw a mixture of all of it, and they all have their different runes, I noticed as well. Their own spin-off on certain, when I was researching it. Even though it might not be legit, they have their own twist, it seems like.
Yeah, and I'll give you for example, and this is just because of how I choose my name from the wolf. So why am I Ironwolf? And I'm leading into something. So because of the Ulfheden bloodline in our family, from our dynasty and our legacy, and then my natural element is earth. Specifically, it's iron, one of the strongest elements on the planet. So I have that tattooed on me by the old style, the old tradition, the way that my ancestors had their tattoos with the old stick and poke, which was done officially at a gathering. So it's in as a collar. I don't know how well you'll be able to see
Yeah,
this
I
with
seen
light.
it when you jumped in the pool that one night.
Yeah. So in Elder Futhark, it says Iron Wolf on the runes. So
Here, I'll put the... Here, if you want to show it real quick.
there we go. So for whatever reason, if we're at gatherings or other things, and I tend to just say, hey, I've been drinking too much meat, I'm hot, I take my shirt off. Or is a ritual to certain gods or certain times of year. They already know who I am, but I have that in Elder Futhark to represent and to other PM. So they see Iron Wolf and they're like, oh shit, okay, we know this guy. But yeah, that was kind of to honor my ancestors and my ancestral heritage and our lineage.
Let's see. This is a good question. According to the motion, it states that Odinism was hijacked by the white nationalists. Is that true? Or what do you think about it?
It was started as a Odinism was started as a folkish heathen movement, traditionally with the old Germanic practices, and then the mythology, folklore, and then later. The old Norse created as a white supremacist group that limited only white individuals, and at the beginning only white men to be allowed to join. So they weren't hijacked. It was created as a white supremacist organization
Because
for
they
followers.
used those
of the old
exact
ways.
words as like the first sentence.
So yeah, that's it. Yeah, it was. I can't remember. It was two guys that started it in 1973 in the United Kingdom. And then later in America, it was more prevalent in prisons and jails for because they segregate in jails. I don't know why. Yeah, it became more prevalent in prisons for those white groups and other white supremacist groups.
So
So,
leading into that part, so if this memorandum is correct, what's your thoughts on their accusations of him technically not having any ties and the guards having ties, and this potentially being one of their groups?
I think the group is keeping it very hidden right now. They're keeping it very silent and quiet, especially with the guards protecting him. You know, being within earshot of attorneys and family and things like that.
I know you're reading
Um,
Susanna's comment. What's on your
yeah.
necklace?
So that's a wolf at the top, but it's Mjolnir. Mjolnir is the hammer of Thor. Now, a lot of pagans get this to say, hey, I'm a Norse pagan. In our family, it's different. To be able to, you have to achieve a feat of great strength or courage uh, in order to be recognized by Thor. Not all groups do this. This is something our family does. Um, Thor is a protector of mankind, a protector of all others. And he's pretty good at kicking giant ass. So when I mean a great feat of strength or courage, you know, completing a 5K, climbing a mountain, going on a long hike, things like that. Um, Maybe going to the gym and training out to be in the tough man competition, uh, or the world's strongest man competition, things like that. So that's just that we do. But when my friends see this and other Norse pagans, they say, "Oh, you're a Norse pagan," and they say, "Oh, I like your hammer." But to me, it's I earned this. This is my right to stand in front of the god Thor, and he knows that I had earned this. And I am a protector of my family, and I'm a protector of mankind as well to help when I have others too that I wear. Uh, I have a wolf one, one to Freyr. Um, I have a reindeer necklace as well, reindeer horn. So
Nice. And Robin wanted to know, how many generations are you?
too many to count. I mean, this has been in our family for the past 2,700 years. So I would just say many, many.
I would say many too. And Susanna, she heard something about the Thor hammer necklaces in this case as well. So I'm curious of what she was. And then Robin's referring to Brad, who is named in the memorandum, and he had photos and posts on his Facebook page professing his affiliation publicly. And he still hasn't taken his page down. It looks like everybody else has taken their page down, but maybe two people.
Hmm.
And that was the one that had the handwriting runes, and the one
Well,
that I originally deep dived.
that could mean that he was involved and didn't care, or he wasn't involved and doesn't worry about it. But like he was affiliated with the group but not involved in the crime. I don't know how to take that. Celebrating Yule. Yule is a big is it's our biggest celebration every year. And our calendar runs different. So ours isn't January 1st to January 1st. Ours is October 31st. It's like our New Year's to the following year. It's we call it the wheel of the year. It's everything is by seasons. It represents cycles and change. It is our season of peace, and frith, prosperity, health, and it lasts for 12 days, which is where the 12 days of Christmas come from. It starts on the winter solstice and lasts 12 days.
And Nils also covers this on his channel when he does Fika. And that's where I really got interested, where you put all the greenery inside the house as well during the
Oh,
summertime.
yeah, it starts in the spring, it hangs out through the summer, so we bring that aspect of nature into our home, and we still do that. I'll actually mute the phone for a second. We still do that even in the fall. So we have a tier on the mirror, of course, our fall decorations that are set up, complete with the gourds, the pumpkins here, uh, and then just a few others. Actually, I'll turn the camera back. And loose leaves because of the energy from the fallen trees that hits the ground. You bring that in and strengthens your home. And then, of course, my favorite, the Nissa, or basically house spirits. So most people in America know them as garden gnomes. They're weird. They're known as Nissa. And every Yule, they come around and bring presents for children and everyone in the home. And we leave out rice gröt, which is basically rice porridge. And you leave a slice of butter because only the wealthy had butter back. So we leave butter in the porridge out in front of our front door daily uh, for just good tidings and for them to protect our home and our land. And if you don't do it, there's actually been records of them uh, like tying the or burning down a barn, when they get upset for stuff like that.
Now, Crazy Crystal Lady has another question. Apparently, the father of the boy that Libby was dating practiced Odinism. That was the one that I updated you with earlier. And they had recently broke up. In addition, Libby's mother was involved with a man of color. Could this be a reason for a ritual for their side, do you think?
That sounds like a good motive. If they're a old Germanic or Norse based white supremacist group, and then like there's a separation and one starts to date a man of color, that would be this group. I would think that would be a very good reason uh, to commit a crime, a capital crime like that.
Yeah, I've seen it. And I think one of the accused used to wear a Thor hammer until a year ago. So older, I think. Too much info. I remember it all. He still wears it, from what I understand, from what I've seen on his pictures. Um, he got sentenced, but I'm not too sure where that landed. Nothing compares. Oh, Susanna said, "Can I move in?" Clean. She cleans. She's a cleaner.
Oh yeah, this is about the middle of nowhere. I have a small farm, and I work in the hospital because I'm a healer, so that's my purpose.
Oh, Robin does bring up a good point. Many Christian holidays are pagan as well.
You can thank Emperor Constantine for that. When his empire was being torn in half between pagans and Christians that couldn't get along, he decided to move some of the Christian holidays to pagan holidays to help pagans convert into Christianity. It wasn't until later that it was actually forced into certain areas of the world when missionaries went out for the church to gain power and money. Sweden was actually, we were the last country to convert to Christianity, and mostly it was in Scandinavia, and it was forced on the indigenous people of Scandinavia as well, known as the Sami. So many of the Sami, the modern term is shaman, many of the Sami shamans, their huts were burned, uh, and their drums were destroyed, and their families were threatened or murdered if they went against the Christian church. So those holidays were moved, and why there's many of the old pagan, like the Christmas tree, is an old Yule symbol. The Yule log was brought in and burned for 12 days to keep everyone warm into the hall.
Robin says,
And
I
it was
love that you
decorated
honor
with
your
scents.
heritage.
It's a very deep, close connection. Um, to my ancestors. That's what I love the most about it. Because, and we do a lot of ancestor veneration, a lot of ancestor veneration. So, which actually one holiday's coming up. It's called not Vatnios, so sorry, Veternater, which means winter nights. October 31st. In America, you know it as Halloween. To us, it's a way to connect with our ancestors, with Wiccans and the Celtic. It was when the realms were at their thinnest, so your ancestors could actually cross over and come visit with you that night, tell you, teach you things. You could ask them questions. In Mexico, they still hold that old tradition. They call it Dia de las Muertes. Of course, they decorate the graves and things like that. We have an ancestor altar, so deceased loved ones or an item of one of our deceased ancestors or loved ones we have on this altar. We leave a plate of food out for them to eat with us. And then here at home, we do what we call Ancestor Cup. And towards the end of the night, we will stand around the fire. We will have a horn or a goblet of wine or mead. 90% of the time it's wine. And we will tell a story about our deceased loved one or ancestor and pass it to the person to your left. And it goes through everyone that is there until the cup is gone or there's no more stories to be told. And that's how we keep the memory of our deceased loved ones and our ancestors alive. And each generation of the family is there to witness this. So my children will be able to tell stories about my grandfather and my great-grandfather to their grandchildren. And it's thousands of years in our family.
And there was Robin, she said Constantine wanted a way to bridge the pagans and the Christians.
Yes. Yes, he was trying to find a compromise to peace.
Yep, I agree, Crazy Crystal Lady. I think there were two descriptions. There were more than one person for sure. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. September 21st is also the first day of autumn equinox. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, we celebrate what we call Houseblood. Wiccans and Celtics, they call it Mabon. And it's when, and it only happens twice a year, in the spring and of course in the fall, when day and night are at equal balance. And then after that, the nights start getting darker until Yule, the winter solstice, when it's the darkest and longest night and shortest day of the year. And most of North America and Scandinavia, it's dark all winter long.
And you know how
the sun doesn't return until February.
The summer solstice is my birthday. The autumn equinox is my mom's.
Oh, nice. So the longest day and shortest night of the year. We call it midsummer. It's actually one of the biggest celebrations in Sweden. It's like the biggest.
That's so cool. Robin said that was such a beautiful way to remember when you were talking previously.
Oh, about the ancestor veneration. Yeah, it's
Yes.
We do it every year. We do it every single year.
It will outlast photos. It will far outlast photos. Absolutely.
Correct. Or you'll see a story about your grandfather, great grandfather, and know nothing about them. And this way, you have a story to a face or a private item like heirloom that may have been passed down. You know, how did grandfather get these or great great grand? You know, why was this one tool so sacred to him? You know, or it could be a pipe. It could be anything that he cherished.
I love that. Everything has a story with it, and it becomes more personal too. So,
Yes.
the sun returns in February. Is it commemorated?
So, yes, and the holiday that we have for that, it has many names, but basically we call it in English, it's the blessing of the plow, which is where we start to plan for planting the spring crops, what we're going to grow at it, and then towards the end of the month, beginning of March, um, is when we actually start seeding, like here on our farm in the seed pots for the garden, or we start to purchase larger seeds for the fields for beans or corn. We take all of our tools and implements and we get them ready. We clean them up and get them ready, make sure they're working until the spring celebration,
Now,
which is in
here's
April.
Raven has a good question. I've seen some. Does Nils dress in character at these celebrations?
Yes, actually, yes, I do. Depending on which ritual it is, uh, I have my tunic. I have my wolf hide, depending on the time of year as well. Um, and yes, I do have photos. Um, there are photos taken at the gathering, and videos. So, depending on what that ritual is for, is it for a land water ritual? Is it for, the land spirits? Is it an Odin ritual? Is it a Freyr ritual? Is it a harvest ritual? Is it a spring ritual? It just depends. Ah, that's a good question, Robin.
I'm wondering if that was how he spelled it, but referring to goatee.
Yeah, so a Godi is basically a priest that
Because
they
he's the
devote
one that wanted to
themselves.
travel.
Yeah, oh man. So a goatee is a priest. Basically, they're responsible for all of the religious structuring, like the rituals for what holidays, basically. They call them Sabbats, and Celtic paganism, or broad term for paganism, um, seasonally. So they're also responsible for like communal feasts, what to eat at certain feasts. Um, and in the modern sense, with some of these groups, it's basically the leader of their little local group or larger group. They call themselves goatees. It takes a lot of knowledge. It takes a lot of seclusion and isolation, and many, many, many years to study to become a goatee. So some of them are saying I'm goatee, but they don't know all of the knowledge uh, about
And
things.
that's what caught my attention is when I did my reading. And Susanna can hear me. I probably said it until I was blue in the face that I always felt like it was a false prophet. Not saying that he is, but it definitely gave me the sense of a false prophecy, as in not legit, and kind of putting that facade on with religion as the forefront when it really isn't.
Yes, so there's many that say I've read the Havamal, I've read the Prose Edda, I've read the Poetic Edda, um, and maybe I read the Saga of the Volsungs, and I read a book on the runes, and I have I can be a goatee, and that's false. There's 267 sagas. Most people only know about the first 30 if they're lucky. Normally the first 10. But there's 267 sagas, books of the stories of the Old Norse people from Iceland, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland. So there's a lot of information into the old ways. What is the correlation between the wolf and the dragon? How were these creatures first created? So, but a lot of them, they want to be somebody. They want to be a leader in a religious organization or cult, but they don't know all the information. They don't have all of that knowledge. And this knowledge was actually, it's still oral in our family. It was kept secret because of religious persecution. So everything that has come out, not all of it is written. And there was a reason for that.
Now, so this is what we were getting. I'm trying to ignore Harley Dad there.
I
So
just
he
saw
could have
that.
been.
I love
Well,
you.
I got distracted. Susanna brought up the German lady is because also after I did a deep dive into the energy in the psyche of the killer, on my spirit box, a German lady would just mumble, 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 and just keep going on. And she's heard recordings of it, but it caught my attention once I realized it started connecting the dots within the past day that a lot of these beliefs go back to German heritage too.
Yes, a lot of that has to do with the Proto-Germanic, the Indo-European tribes, basically in present-day Germany, Poland, part of France, and other. Um, it was called Germania. You can read about it through Tacitus, the Roman historian, and the Old Germanic language, which is in like we basically have the same gods, but in the old German, Odin is known as Woden. Woden. So Tyr was
I've heard
two.
you mention
Uh,
Odin before.
so a lot of people think there's not really a big correlation between that belief today uh, and modern times, but every day of the week is named after an Old Norse god. So
Okay.
Monday was Money, Mani, who was basically pulls the moon in a chariot around the sky. Tuesday is Woden's day. Thursday is Thor's day, and is still revered in Scandinavia to this day. Friday is Freya's day. Saturday was Laugardagr, but then the Romans changed it to Saturn's day in their belief. Uh, and then Sunday was Suna's day. Suna is the sister to Mani. Mani pulls, or Suna pulls the sun around the sky in a chariot. They're each chased by a wolf too. Scotty.
That is awesome. I
And
didn't know that part. That
yeah,
is,
yeah.
I love that. And this is where I was going to because damn Harley Dad. So he could have been misinterpreting the entire religion. And that's what we were touching base on and talking about earlier is it it makes me think of a mix of trying to comprehend the religion mixed with fandom, fantasy, and extremism.
Yes, yes. A combination of each one,
Or Susanna
or
brought
all
up a
three
good
rather.
point, willful misinterpretation. Hey, Johnny Blackhawk. I waved to you, but I wanted to say hi. Did you see Johnny out on boots on the ground 2 weeks ago? He was out reporting on the escaped prisoner that me and Ranger were covering.
Oh, yeah. I was watching him and Nick when they
Yep.
were out. Yes, looking
And
for
then
Danielle.
he's joined up with Chuck as well, who jumped on panel that night. And Johnny's stepdaughter is the one that discovered Rachel Morin's body. So he's
Mm,
following along with the search and has been doing a lot of good work. And he's starting his
okay.
YouTube channel as well.
Good
He's
man.
a
Good
tribal
man.
dancer, if I'm correct.
Ooh.
Am I correct, Johnny? He performs for tribes, and that's his name. He goes by Blackhawk. He has his vest. I love it.
So we have Blackhawk and the Iron Wolf. I love it.
Right? Um, why would you? Why would do you think Brad and Patrick be looking and bind runes? What? What, Robin? What would you think?
Everyone that when they gets into the getting interested into the bind runes for personal protection, for the love of something such as music, or it could be a certain trade or craft. But don't be misled, and Google does this. So there's a lot of what people think are bind runes, like the Helm of All, the Aglashammer. actually not bind runes at all. Those are staves. Um, but bind runes,
I
which is
pulled.
basically you take two runes and combine them to create something
So
stronger magically.
would it be like this? When I was searching,
Yes. I don't know if you can enlarge that or not.
yeah. Let me get rid of Robin's question. Oh, she said, "Why do
So,
you think?"
why do you think they were getting in the bind runes? That's personal to them. It could be for runes for
I think,
ancestor veneration. You can use it for protection. Um,
in my
almost
opinion, it was mixing with magic, black magic.
yes. Whatever their intention that they were wanting to use the bind runes for, I don't know that answer. Uh, but it's very it's very almost every Norse pagan knows of bind runes, is familiar with bind runes. So I don't know exactly why they would be using it, or to what purpose rather that they would be using it for.
Okay.
So if you look at the top there, you'll see those are the
Okay,
older
back.
Futhark runes, and
Sorry.
there's older Germanic, which is the younger Futhark, and then you have the elder Futhark. Those are the actual runes. The symbols in the middle, center, left, and right, those are staves. Those aren't actually bind runes. The only thing, and of course at the bottom, and the one in the very center, that's a modern stave with runes on it. That's not a bind rune. But on the two, three, four, fifth row down, so second from the bottom, on the right and on the left, those are bind runes. And the one on the far left with Gibo, we call it double Gibo, with Isa in it, that's actually a very strong protection bind rune. And very common these days.
Now, has anybody seen? I wasn't gonna post it, but has anybody seen the somebody put together and this will be a trigger warning. Somebody put together by the description of the memorandum of how the runes were placed by reading it. I personally have not gone through all of it yet, but just curious if you've seen this because I was debating on sharing it. If you want me to show you, I can show you. That's an interesting question, Nita. Any guess what the placement of sticks across the bodies could communicate? And that would be Gibo and Isa, right?
Yeah, Gibo and Isa. That's what does not make sense is Isa's ice. It means ice. And it represents like stillness. It kind of slows you down. So if you're like feeling, Isa is a very good rune to teach you just hey, relax, calm down. So
Now,
that combined with Gibo, which means guardian, it's protection. I don't know why they would put that on the body of the deceased. Yeah, in the sketch there to the right, that makes zero sense to me.
because this is the
Again,
binding,
yes,
and this I've been trying to figure out. This, all I could think of is like a sacrifice rune.
yeah, I thought it was not these at first. It's just too narrow for Hegel.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But
and what's really strange is the original ritual for this sacrifice thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago. It's actually been a long time. You had no clothes on. You were nude. So again, this is
and
just like Hollywood fandom.
and she has her clothes on.
Yeah,
And what caught my attention is you see how the body is placed with the leg underneath and the hands up.
Mm-hmm.
That is what made me think of the tarot hangman. If you turn it
Oh,
upside
I
down,
see.
that's
Yeah,
what I
I
was
see
seeing
now.
when I've been looking at it and
And
trying to
the
figure it out.
the way her legs cross just then there from the black pants is actually that is the rune Othala.
Mhm. Do I have that one? Oh yeah, that is this
Yep,
one.
there you go. Yes.
So this is the Athala.
Yeah, just the way her legs. That's the only reason I could think that is they're trying to add another rune into
So
whatever they were doing.
bad karma, prejudice. Did you want to go over Athala one more time? Because then it has the binding on top, and then she also has the antlers, which is you were comparing to the Green Man.
Green Man, which was a god known as Kernunos.
Okay. Carnunos. Sounds like something Harley Dad would use.
Yeah, let me type this in real quick.
I can never pronounce them.
If you mention, yeah, Kernunos.
Okay. I have no idea. I've been trying to figure that out myself, Robin. Um, it shows something right here, and I'm still trying because everybody has been skipping over Libby's, or was it Abby's? I think it was Libby's. Um,
Hmm.
I want to go back over and look at the whole placement and mark everything on here to figure that
Yeah,
out.
because could it have been a crystal? Could it have been a bag with something in it? Could it? I don't know. It's very strange.
Yeah. And this was by somebody on Twitter who was just trying to make a visual of the placement of the runes. Um, Prejudice. What was her mother? The one who dated a black man? Was it her mom? I think so.
They said the shoe was under Abby and the phone was under her shoe. I heard the phone was under the body. That's what I read earlier today.
So it could have been the shoe and the phone. It was Libby's mother. I have no idea.
Hmm.
That'd be a good question. Do you? And I would almost say it would look like a sack or an animal. Let me get back to it. Hold on one second. She's talking about this right here.
Let me zoom in here. Y'all, yeah.
But then again,
Some
just
type
so you
of.
know, this is somebody from Twitter, creator, content creator that drew something up for somebody to have a visual as well to use.
Hmm. This is very strange.
Yeah, I saw pointy ears too, but then I said, well, it could have been a sack, but I'm going to refocus and read it some more and touch base over this some more. If it was an animal, would that represent anything? Probably part of the sacrifice. I'm assuming. Good
I mean,
night,
just
Raven. Thank you.
yeah, just an animal sacrifice. It could have been something they found in the
Yeah,
woods that, hey, let's go ahead and kill this and sacrifice it for whatever reason.
right.
But
Because I see where they put the bullet.
we we honor the forest and the creatures within it. And a lot of people say there's a lot of similarities between Native American and Scandinavian beliefs and practices. This is very true. Even the music sounds similar, even with the Sami people. So know it, and then seeing this crime scene like this, and then all of the symbols being desecrated basically with this crime. It's very confusing and it's irritating and upsets me as well because that's not what we're about. Uh, and then finding out, it was an Odinist that had been accused of this, which they are very racist. And in true Norse paganism, we are not. We accept everybody. Um, there were those in the Byzantine Empire that were traders that had become Norse pagans, and there was Norse pagans that had uh, were traders to the Middle East that had become Muslims. So we don't like that. Even today, it's even more prevalent. But 1,000 years ago, you didn't have to be from Scandinavia to be a Norse pagan. There were slaves that converted. There were uh, others that were captured that were not necessarily slaves from, say, England that were Christians that converted. So, thing to me, this crime.
That makes me want
Well,
to
I
go
have.
through the memorandum and kind of verify all the placement on that sketches as well.
hmm And it makes
Checkpoint
me
it.
wonder when they mentioned that Purdue professor, if that was to kind of throw them off at first when there was an accusation, or, and this is just a Nils conspiracy theory, excuse me, how many and different levels of law enforcement familiar with this case are Odinists?
Or correlated with the masonry.
It's very different. Masonry and paganism are completely different.
Well, the one guy that's named in there is a part of both.
hmm Masons
So there's
are.
multiple ties between clubs, like in regards to tight clubs, like
hmm
groups. Not
There,
necessarily extreme, but
there are pagans that are Christian. That there are pagans that are Masons. There are Christians that are Masons. Um, I don't know of any Hindu or Buddhist that are Masons. I'm not saying they don't have it. Because the one belief in Masonry is that you have to believe a power higher than yourself. It's not like AA, just in a creator being. It just happened that most Christians went into it because it's a brotherhood, basically. And most Norse religions today, uh, it's brotherhood and sisterhood. Uh, there are many who come from Christianity that just don't like the indoctrination of Christianity. And to them, it just doesn't make sense, which is why they change their belief. Um, I know Norse pagans that are Masons, and Masons are completely different in their belief than Norse beliefs. But it's a club. It's not a religion.
right. But they use I've noticed that they do use religion as their base.
Yes,
Just
a belief, not a religion, but a belief, because their power they call the great architect. So, which is the creator of all things. So, if you're a Christian, it could be God. If you're Norse pagan, it could be Odin, for example. But
right,
agnostics and atheists, they let them know right beforehand, hey, we do, this is what you believe in.
right. And yeah, we were talking about that earlier, and where the correction officers wore patches on their uniform. And I remember your first response was, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, yeah. And this guy, were they in the same group or a kindred uh, group of the Odinistic rite as well? Are there others involved in this um, at higher levels, which is why it was dismissed at the beginning with the phantom Purdue professor that they didn't exist or they can't find, and no professor from Purdue has come out who was supposed to be the expert.
Right. And you would assume that they would have even Purdue have a list of professors that are their specialties there too. So if they had it, it wouldn't be that hard to see who teaches what special class within the past
Hmm.
7 years.
Yes, and one of the premier, which I sent you, I'm not going to mention his name, but the one of the premier experts in the world on the Norse language and Norse mythology. I would not be surprised if they try to contact him.
I was going to look into his
For
channel.
this.
Oh,
Yes,
Robin, great point.
yeah, there would have been some type of documented deposition towards the case, and it would have been extensive. It wouldn't have been just 2 pages.
And anybody who's just meeting Nils, don't mind the cat. The cat, he's the
Oh,
cat seat. He's the cat.
yeah, he's the resident shoulder sitter. This is Gumpy.
And I've got Jack.
Looking at the cat. Yeah, Robin, that's what I'm thinking, and this is, something that they wanted to do for a, buddy, you got to quit rubbing on me. This is something that they wanted to do for, maybe as an offering to Odin, but they didn't know how to do it the right way, or they were misconstrued, or were not knowledgeable enough uh, to know an actual ritual. It was just monkey see, monkey do, or I saw this on TV, it looks cool. That's the impression that I'm taking from it.
Almost like mimicking. That's what. It's just. What's your thoughts on
Yeah.
the prosecution and the defense in that point? I know you were speaking on it earlier a little bit.
Well, the fact that the information had come out in the defense, from September 7th, the new findings, and the defense had no clue. Like they weren't even given the information until after it was made public. Um, the prosecution of the case, whether it's an acquittal or they have all of the information together, are they going after a murderer or are they going after the Odinic, um, the Odinic rite or the Odinist, whatever? Um, my personal view, especially in America, there's a freedom of religion. You can believe whatever you want to believe as long as you're not hurting others. But the moment that you do, and 2 girls unfortunately lost their life because of this, and that's not what Norse paganism is about. Uh, and the fact that this happened, it needs to be addressed. But what I don't want to see is people saying, "Oh, you're a Norse pagan, so you're a white supremacist," because that's not who we are. That's not what we do. That's what I'm afraid this case is going to lead to. Whether it's an acquittal or a conviction, it's still going to make Norse pagans across the world look like nationalist white supremacists. And that's my biggest fear from this case.
I totally agree. And I think that's why both of us kind of jumped to wanting to bring this to the light and share more knowledge, because whoever is doing this or spreading this is obviously not they need people need to be educated, because
Hmm.
it sounds like they just googled some things.
Yeah. And of course, Google's not always accurate, especially with the information presented by the prosecution, some of the information that I saw on Court TV and other streams today. And I was like, they really need to delve or find an expert into Norse history, Norse religion, Norse mythology before they start releasing this information into the public.
So cute.
Yeah, that's my boy. He's one of our rescues 2 years ago.
I see
But
him more than the other one.
yeah, we only allow certain ones into the house so they don't tear anything up or pee everywhere or poop everywhere. So he's one of the very chill cats.
And me and Robin have had many conversations on this. I believe that when you mess with something you know little of, you open your psyche up to evil.
Yes, especially with an ancient type of magic. Um, and it does exist in the world, and you can see evidence for it. You can see Norse influence everywhere, not just the days of the week. Everybody that has a cell phone, you see actually a bind ring of an old Norse king. It's called Bluetooth. So
That's
just
true
look
now
at
that
the
you're saying that.
look at the Bluetooth symbol. That Bluetooth was invented by a Swedish engineer um, who wanted a way for people to remember his ancestral heritage in his country. So that's why he made it or Harold Bluetooth, King Harold Bluetooth of Sweden, and just simply named it Bluetooth. And he was named Bluetooth because he loved blueberries. Blueberries were native to Scandinavia, so he constantly ate blueberries and it stained his teeth blue. And he was known as King Harold Bluetooth.
And Rita, that's a good point. Happens all the time, unfortunately. Renegades twisting doctrines and bringing shame on their particular congregations because of their actions. And it's really unfortunate. It really is.
God, it's every belief around the world. You see it in every religion and culture. You see it in America with Westboro Baptist Church. I mean, there's bad people in every belief, and they twist it and they misconstrue personal gain, and that's not what it's there for. Especially in Old Norse belief, we are here to help others. We are here to support and be stronger in our community, and if not be the strongest in our community, helping our neighbors, regardless of their belief. Our gods love creativity. They created us and gave us a purpose. Many of the same values in Christianity as well, and in Islam. And when you commit a heinous crime like this, then you're not fulfilling your full purpose. You're doing this for personal gain to gain the favor of a god, which is going to end very badly for whoever committed this crime.
Well, I hope that they dig into this. I know I'm going to be looking into it more, especially after looking into this all day today. Trying to figure out the runes and the meanings. And I kept asking you question after question after question. So thank you for being so patient with me today. And is there anything else that you would want to mention regarding this for right now?
Uh, yeah, just don't view for everyone out there in chat and all the viewers. Don't view Norse pagans as neo-Nazis or as white supremacists or white nationalists, whatever you want to call it, because that's not what this is about. This is evil people that unfortunately took the life of two young girls, and the Norse belief, and it's even written in the Havamal that which isn't our Bible, it's just like a book of values. But our belief teaches us not to prey on the weak. It actually teaches us to build them up and protect them.
And I love that. And you and I have always had conversations about this and have talked about actually having conversations like this on, and we never really brought it until today, really.
Yeah.
And this actually brought it. But we've kind of been talking about bringing this kind of stuff up in the past, what,
Yeah, for
6 months at
months.
least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for months.
Well, thank you so much. And I hope if anything else comes up or we have more questions, I hope you'll be happy to come back up. And Robin says this is one of my favorite lives I've seen in a long while. Thank you, Robin.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining and
Are you
coming here.
planning to rewatch? Well, it's a lot of information to digest. And I'm still trying to digest everything Nils was sending me today. And I was like, head spinning because there's so much more to it than just glancing at it. And that's with every religion, every lifestyle, every culture. And
Yeah.
having the knowledge and the
Ooh,
education
ooh, ooh, claw.
behind it without the taboo and the stigma and what a lot of people are putting towards to make a certain group look bad just because it fits their narrative and kind of not have it as a group. That's the segregated group that of whoever did this crime is not all of that religion or that culture in general. And we need to make sure that if there is any questions, we need to have the right source and the right education and the right questions to come to it because I know I've heard tons of creators today just say, "Hey, I don't know. Who would know?" and then they just say some off the wall stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So at least hopefully we've given you some good information to go by. And Nils he has an invaluable amount of knowledge regarding this whole, I don't even know. How would you call it, Nils?
Just a mountain of knowledge, I guess. That's the best
You
way to
have a mountain
describe
of
it.
knowledge for a lot of things. That is true.
We are keepers of the old lore, is how we say it in our family.
Sounds like you got some new subs. Awesome. My old boss used to tell people who's paying
Oh,
you to
thank you. I
not know.
appreciate that.
Well, thank you. And until the next one, we'll probably definitely come back up here with more information. And I know Ranger was kind of interested in looking into it too, if we're going to be covering some more of it, or if anything else comes up that we think should be addressed. And hopefully, make sure you share it out. Let everybody know because this has a lot of information that can go against a lot of the misinformation and a lot of education that people are saying in streams and broadcasts. I don't know. And it's right
Yes.
here. So thank you. Stay safe. And as I always say, don't forget to smile or be somebody's smile because that could be their saving grace. And until the next one, see you later.
Skull.
Cheers.